and welcome to week 15 of 5225, 52 Weeks of Loving Movies. This week we are talking about drug movies because happy 420, everyone. It's April 20th. It's Easter, Resurrection Sunday, the day our Lord rose and came for your flesh. That was a zombie Jesus joke. I'm sorry. This week we're talking about drug movies. I realized that I did this because 420 was, and last week I said that 420 was at the end of that week, and it wasn't. It's at the beginning of this week. But I did 420 because of drugs, but 420 is a weed holiday, and I didn't watch anything about weed. So there's that. There's also the fact that I was going to my next theme for the week was going to be weed related, but I have changed that. So it doesn't all make sense. It doesn't have to. Also, I'd like to apologize for my appearance. It's been a long week, very long week, and it's cold and rainy outside, and I've had to be out in the rain a couple times. And so I'm damp and tired, and but I'm here, and we're going to talk about these movies. I only had a chance to watch 3 movies this week, and I watched them all like on Monday, and then I didn't get a chance to watch anything else. But luckily 2 of them were actually first time watches for me, which is interesting because I went through, as I mentioned last week, I went through like a phase where I watched a lot of drug movies because there's just something very, very interesting about them. And so I thought I'd have a bunch of rewatches, but as I did not end up having enough time to watch very many movies this week, I ended up only doing 1 rewatch and 2 first-time watches. So without any further ado, let's just get right into the first movie, which is Requiem for a Dream, directed by Darren Aronofsky. This was actually a first-time watch for me. Now, I know I touched on this film a bit when I talked about The Contender, which I believe was my first week. It was week 1 of 5225. I talked about The Contender because I thought Joan Allen was incredible, and I thought she should have or could have won that Best Actress prize. I don't remember where I landed necessarily on Ellen Burstyn at the time. I know that I've always considered this a really good performance because I've seen like bits of it. Like I've seen clips and I've seen her performance from the time, but I had never seen the full movie. And now that I've seen the movie, her not winning Best Actress that year is a miscarriage of justice. It's one of the biggest miscarriages that the Oscars have ever committed because she was incredible. She's the thing in that movie that is worth seeing, in my opinion. Like the rest of it's good. It's a good movie. It has some good visuals. I'm not a huge Aronofsky fan. This is one of his better ones, I think. Black Swan and The Wrestler, those are ones that I do gravitate toward, but a lot of his films just aren't really for me. This one was good. I did enjoy it. But Ellen Burstyn's performance is just so good. And it's so, it's so evocative and believable and real and God, heartbreaking. It kind of worried me at first when I first started watching the movie because it felt like they were going to equate her addiction to food, which is not what she had, to the same as their heroin use or whatever drugs they were using, which would have pissed me off. And it would not have surprised me from the director of The Whale, which is a film I do not like. But once I realized kind of what was going on, this idea, this fad that was going on in the late 90s, early 2000s, of these diet pills that were really just like amphetamines, and they were destroying people who were just trying to live a socially acceptable life, at least in terms of what they believed society wanted from them. So I found her her journey, her story, incredibly compelling. The rest of it was good, and I did enjoy it, but her storyline and her performance was the key for that movie for me. Um, but I'm going to move on to the next movie I watched, uh, which is a movie that I love. I saw this one not when it came out, but just a couple years after it came out. And that was when I fell in love with the director Danny Boyle, because this is the first Boyle film I had seen, and that is Trainspotting. Um, I've often said that there are two kinds of drug movies. There are scary drug movies and fun drug movies. Requiem for a Dream, which we just talked about, is a scary drug movie. Trainspotting is both. It's both scary and fun. Um, and I think it does lean a little bit more towards fun, but it does have those really heart-wrenching kind of scary moments in the film, and it definitely will scare a person away from doing drugs. I know that the reason I never did any hard drugs in my life and never will do any hard drugs in my life is because I saw Trainspotting at a very impressionable age. I think it was in my late teens, but it was it was a formative experience for me, and I will never do hard drugs because of that. As I had said, this was my first Danny Boyle film. And at the time that I had seen this, I had never seen anything like it. And that's why it really, really stuck with me. Because as I said, I was at a pretty impressionable age in my film journey and in my and in my drug education. Um, so it was something that was very incredible to me. Like it really left its mark on me, and it retains a lot of the wonder and terror and joy that it sparked in the teenage version of me. And coming back to it was just as much fun and just as terrifying as it was the first time. I will say that this movie, which I've seen it a few times, it's not like this is the first time since the first time, but I've seen it several times. It's a movie that I absolutely love. But this was the first time in a little while that I've revisited it, and so I'm pleased to know that. With my changing tastes in movies, it seems like it's my movie taste is ever evolving, which is good. It seems like it has stuck with me, which makes me very, very happy. This movie does feature one of my favorite cinematic scenes of all time, and in that scene features my favorite needle drop of all time, and that is Perfect Day by Lou Reed. If you've never seen that scene, I highly recommend just watching this movie and seeing it in the context. But if you have no desire to see it, go find a clip of it. But it's a sequence that I think my love of it has a lot to do with when I saw it, because, rewatching, I was like, gosh, I still love this scene. But I do notice that, like, not only has this scene influenced other pieces of media since then, and so it doesn't feel as fresh and exciting, that scene, as it once did to me. And I've also seen people take bigger leaps in that same in similar situations. So while it's not as groundbreaking as it was to me that first time, it still sticks with me. It's one that I absolutely love because it's just, number one, I love that song "Perfect Day" by Lou Reed. It's one of my favorites, and just the use of that and the way that it illustrates a person going back on the horse, going off the wagon, whatever you want to say, a person going back to their old ways, and the way that it illustrates the dangers of that, and kind of but the dangers, but also how it feels to the person who's doing heroin again for the first time in a long time. So it's that movie is magical to me. And I'm glad that I took the chance to rewatch it. But I'm going to move on from there to another movie that I haven't seen. This is another first watch for me. And considering how much I love Trainspotting, it's a complete surprise that I never watched T2 Trainspotting, the sequel to Trainspotting. And it's weird because I owned it. Like, I had the movie. I was able to watch my own copy of T2 Trainspotting. I just don't, for whatever reason, when I got it, I just delayed it, and then time went on, and then it was no longer like nagging at my head, the back of my brain that I needed to watch it. And then one day, it wasn't on my watch list, and that kind of sucked. But I have rectified that, because as soon as I was done with Trainspotting, I was like, I really should watch T2 Trainspotting, and so I did. I threw it on, and I was nervous, and maybe that's why it took me so long. Like, I'm nervous because this movie Trainspotting, that meant so much to me in my film journey, and just kind of as a from a director that I love, and as a movie that was instrumental in my film education. To have a sequel to that, I was very nervous, and so long after, but I was glad, because like the whole crew was back together, Boyle and Ewan McGregor, who they hadn't worked together in a long time, because I believe the story goes, and don't quote me on this, go look it up if you need to. I believe the story goes that Ewan McGregor was upset that Danny Boyle didn't cast him as the lead in The Beach, and then that kind of put a strain on their relationship, and so they didn't work together for a while, which kind of sucks, because I love them together. So this was the first time they got back together, and the rest of the cast is there. Johnny Lee Miller and Ewan Bremner, Robert Carlyle, Kelly MacDonald makes a brief appearance. Everybody that well, not everybody, but because there's some people who were in it that didn't come back, but the main people all returned, including Shirley Henderson, who I just adore, and even though she's in a very small piece, it did warm my heart to see her in this again, because again, I just adore her. I will say about this movie is that it doesn't help to compare it to Trainspotting, because it doesn't touch Trainspotting, in my opinion. It doesn't do the same things. It doesn't feel the same way, and it just doesn't mean to feel the same way or do the same things. So it doesn't help for that comparison. I will say that in terms of how much I love Trainspotting, this doesn't come near that. But we just need to put that aside, because it's not being Trainspotting again. That's not its goal. It's not anything like that. So setting that aside, this was a movie that I like. It's a worthy successor to this movie that I love, Trainspotting. Although it's weird. It feels weird talking about it for this week, which I still think it qualifies, but it's not really a drug movie. It's more about the shadow that a life of drugs in your past can cast on your life, and on the world, and on your future, and on who you become, and on the people you know, the people you love, and the people you associated with when that part of your past was your present, and just exploring that, which I found incredibly fascinating. That's the kind of the thing that really worked for me, was this idea of the shadows of your past. And I mean shadows figuratively, but I also mean them literally, because it does some really cool stuff with shadows. Danny Boyle does some really cool stuff with shadows in this movie, because there are the figurative shadows of what life becomes, but there's also literal shadows on the wall that represent people who aren't there, in some cases, or shadows that represent the person that you don't want to be, or the person you were, or maybe the person you are that you wish you weren't. There are the use of shadows in this movie is pretty genius, and I just want to shout that out. But from those literal shadows on the walls in these movies, the figurative shadows, I think is where the meat of this movie really is. It's about, no matter how far you run, your shadow is still going to be behind you, and it's still going to be connected to you. You may become someone else. You may move on from who you were before, but those shadows are still connected to you. You can't outrun your shadow. And I think that take on the aftermath of a life on drugs is it's pretty incredible, because this takes place 20 years later, and 20 years later Rent comes back and is basically back right where he started, not necessarily with doing all the drugs, but in the same predicament he was in when he left. Like, nothing's changed. And I think that is, I think that it covers some really interesting ground, and I'm extremely glad that I finally watched it, because it was one that I enjoyed. Outside of that, like the original, the soundtrack kicks fucking ass, including the original songs, "No More Catholics Left," um, which made me laugh. But that is where I'm going to leave T2 Trainspotting. Have you guys seen these movies that I watched? What did you think of Requiem for a Dream, Trainspotting, or T2 Trainspotting? Tell me in the comments. Are you due for a rewatch on any of them, to maybe reevaluate them? Let me know in the comments how you feel, and let's now talk about next week. Now, next week was going to be Kevin Smith week, because of 420. But because he has Dogma re-released coming back out in June, I've moved that to June, because I'd like to include my review of the re-release of Dogma in that week's episode. So I have just swapped places with what was in that spot, and what was in that spot is one that I was very excited about anyway. I was actually disappointed when I put it in there that I had put it in June, because I really wanted to get to it soon, and that is stage plays and musicals. So that means pro shots of stage plays and stage musicals. I'm not gonna be going after cam shots of people who have bootlegged it and stuff like that. I'm not going for that. I'm going for actually produced and released pro shots of stage plays and musicals. I know Dylan is going to have some opinions of what I should watch. I've got stuff I already want to watch, and I'm sure that we're going to have some crossover on our lists. But I want to hear from you, Dylan, and from everybody. What are some stage play and stage musical pro shots that I should watch for this week? Talk to me in the comments. Thanks.